I'm back with another feeding my pets / update video. I hope that's okay. I'm gonna cover some topics I discussed last week, so if you missed that video, I will leave it linked on screen and down below. First, I want to talk about Mikasa, my garter snake. I had said that she had undergone a very slight surgery to remove the tip of her tail from an injury that she had when she was younger. Her tail has healed really well and she has been added back to her bioactive enclosure, so very happy update on that one. Next, I want to talk about Franklin. I mentioned in the previous video that he was having some health issues I thought might be related to his GI tumor. They are in fact not related to his GI tumor. He recently had an appointment to have a strange spot on the underside of his body observed, and the vet palpated the area for a while in addition to giving him a general exam. Franklin had no reaction to her pressing that spot for a long time and kind of moving him around, so we don't assume he's in any pain, and my vet doesn't think it's related to his GI tumor due to the location of the weird spot. She says it could be fungal, it could be cancer. We aren't going to be sure unless we run some tests, and the only thing to be done is to biopsy the area. Franklin would have to go under sedation and a small piece of his skin would have to be removed. He would require a few stitches and those would come out after 6 to 8 weeks. The biopsy may not reveal anything treatable. In fact, it's more likely that the biopsy will provide me with an answer, but not a treatment. The procedure is estimated to be around $800. With my own health issues and Mikasa's recent surgery, it's a lot to take on financially, but I still want to do it. If I can buy Franklin some time or some comfort, I want to. I'm about to leave for Canada to attend my friend's wedding and to hang out with some cool animal people that you might be familiar with. So when I get back, I will look into booking Franklin for the procedure. I'm not asking for donations. That's a question that I get sometimes when I talk about vet costs. So I'm not asking for donations or any help, but if you feel inclined to offer support in that way, whether it be through Patreon or donation or merch, or even just, kind words down below, that's fine as well. It is welcome and so greatly appreciated. Now, if the biopsy comes back and it's something that can be treated, I will treat for that. If it comes back and it's not something that's treatable, which is something my vet thinks is honestly more likely than not, then euthanasia will be the option. I don't know if it'll happen then or if it'll happen in the future after that, but I just want everyone to be very aware that that is likely on the horizon. And when it comes to being a pet YouTuber, I have my own grief that I have as a pet keeper, but then there's also grieving publicly and also letting my followers grieve as well, because Franklin has been around the entire time I've had my channel, the entire time I've had any sort of following online, whether it be on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or what have you. So I just want everyone to be very aware that that might be coming and to prepare yourselves if you are particularly attached to Franklin. Another thing I want to talk about is my tomato frog Gamakichi, who you saw on screen before this frog, who is Chocho. So they both are in very similar setups. I have some tours on my channel, and Gamakichi has been in that setup since I got him in 2019. However, within the last 8 months or so, Gamakichi has been really challenging to feed. Every single time I would dig him up or pull him out of the enclosure to feed him, he would say, "No, thank you, ma'am, I'm not interested." And I took him and put him in a quarantine enclosure because I wanted to make sure nothing was wrong with him. Some months ago I did that, and he ate every single time I offered food to him because in a quarantine enclosure there's a lot less going on. He can't really hide as well. It's just substrate, a bowl, and a hide. So he doesn't get to have as many options for evading me. But when it came to putting him back in the enclosure, he was like, "No, thank you, I don't want to eat again." So I have actually moved Gamakichi into a more simplistic enclosure, which is a huge bummer because I really like his enclosure, but ultimately I have to do what's best for him. So right now he is in a temporary tub setup, although I will be moving him into a 10-gallon. I'm going to try and make it as frog bougie as possible while still allowing it to be simplistic enough for Gamakichi and his old difficult butt. I want to quickly add that there's 2 amphibians I have that you're not seeing on screen. One is Neville, my tiger salamander, who has been underneath the soil since January. So I would have to dig her up for this video, and really that just seemed she wouldn't like that very much. The other one is Ron, my axolotl, who is so challenging to feed on camera. Now the next thing I want to talk about are my Firebelly toads. As you can see, they are in tanks you have never seen before. I still need to get more Anubias plants and some hornwort and maybe some more bamboo, so don't judge the lack of plants. These are more simple setups than you have seen on my channel before, but honestly, I got tired of the live planted terrarium side of the polydariums that I built. My first polydarium was my favorite, but it was too small and I didn't have a big enough water area. It was like 50 land, 50 water, and I think for Firebelly toads, you definitely need to go bigger on the water section than on the land section. So I really liked that one and it worked really well, but I eventually took it apart and built a new one. In general, the polydariums were just a lot of work to keep clean because the plants needed bright light to grow, and I kept getting algae on the backgrounds or on the plants or on the glass and the rocks, and it would be so much to keep them clean in a way that was aesthetically pleasing. I lost my Firebelly toad Bolin back in 2020 when he escaped the second polydarium I built. I never did figure out how he escaped or what happened. I just never found him and it was super traumatic. I talked about it a lot on Instagram because I searched for him for a long time, and then even for like a year after he disappeared, I would have like dreams that I'd wake up in the middle of the night that he would like be running across my floor and I would try to find him. I've still never found him to this day, and it's truly something I feel guilty about because if he escaped the enclosure, it's my fault. And even though all the other frogs stayed put, he got out. So that one is on me. And I immediately had anxiety about that polydarium. And so it was only set up for a very brief period of time before I decided to get rid of it. The last two polydariums I had my Bombina orientalis and Bombina variegata in, they were cohabbed, and though I didn't experience any breeding or any issues keeping them together, people who keep Bombina species continue to comment on the temporary cohabitation of them, so I decided to do two separate tanks. That it would be easier, I wouldn't get as many comments, and it makes feeding them easier as well because I don't have a bunch of frogs jumping at me at once when I'm trying to like tongue feed them individually. So they've been separated since December of last year. The yellow-bellied toads are in a 20 long enclosure now, and my two remaining fire-bellied toads, Mako and Asami, are in a 15-gallon. Oh, for those who are not aware, Cora passed away last year. I talked about it on Instagram, but I don't know if I talked about it here. But I really like these simpler setups. Oh, I should probably mention the frogs that are in the 20-gallon are Katara, Sokka, Toph, Aang, Suki, and Zuko. 6 frogs sounds like a lot for the 20-gallon, but I only have like 3 to 4 of the frogs that approach full size, and then 2 of my other frogs are really small. So they actually are small in comparison to my fire-belly toads, all of them, but the 2 biggest yellow-bellied toads I have are Suki and Zuko. The rest are a little bit smaller, and I have 2 Aang and Toph that are just like half the size, like they just stopped growing. So I don't really know why, but they never got as big as the others. As I was saying, I really like these simpler setups. They're easy to clean, yet still filled with live plants and Malaysian driftwood. I really love having more natural elements in an enclosure, even if it's not all out like a fully blown live planted bioactive polydarium or has a bunch of substrate or a background. Like even in a simplistic type of setup, I really enjoy having driftwood and live plants. And honestly, having these simpler enclosures couldn't have come at a better time because being sick for 8 weeks, the water changes are the most time consuming type of cleaning because you have to like stand the whole time and you have to siphon the water and you have to like lift the buckets of water and get new water. It's the most like energy or time consuming aside from cleaning leopard gecko enclosures, but it's only because there's 30 something of them. So having, the axolotl tanks and these frog tanks, it just is easier that these are a bit simpler and I'm not scrubbing algae off of every single rock and crevice in the enclosure like I was back in the day. Something else I really like is that I can find the frogs really easily, and that kind of gives me peace of mind when it comes to making sure none of them escape and making sure I can like survey them really easily, make sure everyone's good, make sure everyone's being fed. So that really brings me peace of mind, but I understand if people are disappointed with the change, which might seem like a downgrade, but the frogs are doing well and I'm content with it too. So again, I understand if you're disappointed, but I figured I should be as transparent as possible about the changes I've made. So one more thing I want to mention about the Firebelly toads is that the 20-gallon long that you guys see here was actually provided by a guy I'm seeing, and it's kind of a cute story. And I had some people ask in the comments of my previous video when I very briefly mentioned I had been seeing someone, they were like, "We need details, sis." And I was like, listen, I'm not going to give you too many details, but I'll give you this cute little story. So I have a habit of missing the Petco dollar per gallon sale by like 3 days every year, like, or even less than 3 days. But I just missed it and I really wanted a 20-gallon, and first of all, they were sold out at my local Petco. So even having not missed a dollar per gallon sale, I wasn't going to get any. But then I asked the guy I'm seeing who lives like an hour away if he could check his Pet Supplies Plus, because I don't have one near me. And he went to not one, but 2 Pet Supply Pluses. And I didn't ask him to buy the tank or anything like that, but he went out of his way to be very kind, and he bought the 20-gallon, and he bought a lid. I didn't even ask him to buy a lid. That way I was like, oh, I can get a lid from Petco or whatever on separate time. But he bought a tank and a lid without even like asking. It was so sweet. I was so grateful. So a special shout out to this person who shall still remain nameless for providing my yellow-bellied toads with their new habitat. The last thing I want to talk about is my health. I'm not going to be talking about it for too long. And again, if you're not aware of the fact that I am not well, then my previous video where I fed my reptiles and talked about updates should update you. But if you missed it, the TLDR is that I've been sick for 8 weeks tomorrow, and there's no end in sight. I'm trying not to be so grim about it, but it's been really, really taxing. And I now have like a newfound appreciation for being healthy. Like, I thought COVID was bad. Whatever I have right now is just like sucked the life out of me. I don't know what it is. I went to the doctor on Monday for a full parasite panel because I feel like it could be that. So before, I was tested for Giardia, Salmonella, and bacteria, and all of those were negative. So this time I'm being tested for all the nasties, like the roundworms and things like that, which, you know, it's quite possible I have. And I honestly hope I do, because I'm looking for an answer and I'm looking for a solution. So if it comes back negative, I will probably sob to the doctor on the phone. So I hope that she's ready for that. I really don't know when I'll be better, and that is very scary, and I'm trying not to think about that. But one thing that, you know, complicates doing YouTube is the fact that, like, I've been ill. So these last 2 videos that you've seen are the only ones I have filmed since being sick. All the others were pre-recorded, so I was able to use footage I had already recorded like a whole 2 months ago. But now I'm out of footage. I'm wondering if you guys would be cool with me doing a Q&A and putting like a bunch of animal clips in the background. If so, please leave any questions you have down below. I'm open to answering any and all of them. And I thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. If you did, let me know down below. Again, I am so sorry that this content is different than normal, but I am doing my best. Bye! And a special thank you from me, Benjamin, and the rest of the animals here at Jessica's Animal Friends to our patrons and channel members.